Do we get it? No? Wait. Okay. Okay, they can hear us, but I don't think they can see us yet. Here we are, in tiny little boxes. Now they can. They can definitely see us now, Drew. Hey, welcome to Coding Koans. This is the show where, together, we'll explore the world of software, get better jobs, and change the world. So my name's Ian Carroll. With me today is Drew Adams, and this crazy desktop that you're seeing right now is actually Drew's desktop. Drew, this doesn't look like Windows. Hold on, hold on. Wait, no one can hear you.
No one can hear me.
Now they can hear you. Now they can hear you. Go ahead and say everything you just said all over again.
So, I was saying it's a little Windowsy because this is the KDE desktop, right?
Okay.
And it, it's got a little start menu kind of deal. I even have this one that kind of looks Windowsy. It's not too bad, right? But it's Linux. Look, it's Linux. It's openSUSE Leap 15. 15.2, I believe.
Okay, so this is using Linux, and so that people know about the different operating systems that exist. There's Windows, there's Mac OS, and then there's Linux.
Yeah.
And then Linux has like a million different flavors, which we call
there's different distributions.
Yes.
So, Linux is like a mix and match. You take the different open source projects, you pull them together, and one distribution might pick a different piece of software that sort of fills the gap in a special way that another distro might not choose, and they might choose an alternative version of that. And then those different projects or companies or whatever release it. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and this is openSUSE, and you can find it at opensuse.org. It is free. There is Tumbleweed, which is all the software that makes up Tumbleweed is always the freshest from all the upstream projects. And then this is Leap, and Leap is an annual release, so every year the software that makes up the distribution sort of gets updated and hardened and goes through a little bit more rigorous development process than the pull from upstream and roll it out sort of Tumbleweed release.
Nice. So do you mind if we stop sharing the desktop for a second?
Okay.
I just want to talk to you for a minute here.
Okay. This is Drew.
Hey, Drew.
Hey.
Let's chat for a second. First of all, let me actually give the proper introduction here. First of all, Drew is a DevOps Consultant with Lab Zero Innovations, a lopsa.org board member, and an openSUSE project member and advocate. He is perhaps best known in the SoCal open source community for annually organizing and helping staff the openSUSE booth at the Southern California Linux Expo called Scale. So, Drew, welcome to Coding Koans.
Yes, thank you for having me. This is fun.
Cool.
It's good. You're already getting points because you got me to show off an openSUSE desktop right at the top of the thing.
Yeah, that was great. And we're gonna come right back to it. You have a little openSUSE stuffed animal there, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I have this little guy, and he's pretty cute. And sometimes he gets a little energized. I get him back, and comes back all fully grown like this.
Wow. So yeah, that's openSUSE. Oh my God, that thing is huge.
Thanks.
So we're not going there right now, but Drew, do you remember how we met?
I think I was buying books.
You were.
Is how that worked.
Yeah.
I was buying some books, and you were at a Barnes and Noble, and we got to talking, and we realized we both are tech geeks, and you gave me your card with your GitHub, and I checked out your projects on GitHub, and we chatted about projects, and we chatted about work, and we chatted about aspirations, and then I recruited you to work the booth with us
Right.
at the Southern California Linux Expo, and you wowed and amazed the crowd, and we had an amazing time, and we've been best buds ever since.
Yeah. So, first of all, that is true. At the time, I wasn't even a software developer. I was working at the Barnes and Noble. That was actually my job.
Oh, you were writing code.
I was writing code, sure.
You weren't getting paid for writing code.
No, not yet.
At least not by, certainly not by Barnes and Noble at the time.
No, Barnes and Noble did not want to pay me for my code. That's true.
No.
So you do. So you're a board member for LAPSA, though. That's a league of professional systems administrators, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. LAPSA.org, by the way, if you want to go and visit that. LAPSA,
highly recommended. Join us.
Yeah. You have, if I remember correctly, a little while ago you had like a mentorship program there as well.
Yeah, we've paused the previous program, and we're rethinking about how we approach sort of that mentorship program, because the landscape of software development and system administration and all of this, the DevOps sort of culture has really shifted more cloud, all of these things. And we were seeing that a lot of people weren't taking us up on the mentorship program as much as we were kind of hoping for. Over time, that had sort of dwindled. And so we've been really trying to rethink how we approach that. And so this year we're looking at more collaborations with other organizations. We're looking at more like virtual conferences and virtual interactions, especially in light of the whole COVID thing. So we've got a few things in the works, and maybe that mentorship program might come back. You might see that, though, in a different form than we had it previously. And so we've been really trying to, use this time to reflect, especially, and we already sort of were in this reflective mode, but then obviously this COVID thing happens, and we reflect even more on what we've got going on and how we approach these things.
Sure. Yeah. There's a lot of transition happening. Do you mind telling the audience what exactly is a systems administrator, and how is that different from a software developer or any number of other occupations in software?
Well, and that's the thing, is that very initially you had people who ran the computers were the systems administrators, and you had the people who were the developers and the users of the system. There wasn't a firm delineation always of these, right? And a lot of times a system administrator they were a systems developer as well, but they sort of ran the system, and people would log into this centralized computer, and they would have accounts there and run their software there and do their coding there or whatever. But the administrative rights, like what you could do administratively to the computer, not just in your little home directory, had to be in collaboration with your systems administrator. And that's going way back to even the 70s, sort of historically. And then we have, this sort of divergence in the sort of software development sort of track, and then the system administrator track, where the career paths sort of diverged, and you saw more turnkey software being offered for systems. And so systems administrators typically would turn to a lot of this either open source software, or previously, before open source, a lot of times software was just handed around. Oh, hey, I'm a system administrator here, try this cool thing I got from a buddy of mine, or that I wrote, or whatever, right? And so in this way, that's sort of the origins of open source to begin with, was this, that software developers and systems administrators were sharing these things, right? And so systems administrators sort of came to be this like, grab these pieces from that the world provides you and sort of stitch them together and run the system using those, and then maybe glue them together with some, like, you know, Perl scripts or shell scripts or whatever the flavor of the day was. You know, for a while it was TCL Tickle, the scripting language, you know, for a time it was Perl. You know, shell scripts have always been popular. Nowadays, Python is super popular. And, you know, I'm talking more from like a Linux and Unix background. And so this narrative I'm describing describes more of like a Unix systems administrator. But certainly even on the Windows server side, like, there's systems administrators, and they use a lot of PowerShell to stitch things together and automate things on their local systems. But nowadays, things are sort of converging back together with the, like, DevOps movement, right? You're getting systems administration, you know, these sort of infrastructure people needing to do more large scale infrastructure automations, because you're no longer talking about one big Unix machine or tens of machines. You're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands of machines, and you have to automate those. Well, you know, you use, you know, sure, there's still off the shelf tools you can turn to, buy, you know, use open source, whatever. But you stitch all those together using a more, you know, like an orchestrated suite of, you know, tools that you're gonna, you know, you're scripting. You're scripting these things together just as you did on a small system, but it's more complex because you have all of these different systems that don't share state, right? And so your, like, orchestration layer, how you do this. So as a systems administrator these days, a lot of times now, kind of like you did back in the 70s, you have to know a little bit more coding than you might have gotten away with in the 90s or early 2000s.
Huh. So I'm getting the idea that in the before times, a systems administrator was something more like Dr. Frankenstein. And they would share different bits and pieces of corpses back and forth and assemble their monsters, right?
That's right, yeah.
And now, it's much more like you're a necromancer and you're building a vast army that's going to do your bidding.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yes, it's more like that. And you know, I like the Frankenstein sort of analogy there, because it's, not only is it fun, right, but it's also that sort of cobbling together is rather accurate, both in, like, we're bringing together all these different pieces, but also in, like, not always is the end result very pretty.
Right.
Like, I mean, and frequently lots of times, if you're not careful, up with system not as reproducible as you would like. So, this one system dies and you need to replace it. Well, now my Frankenstein monster just died. How do I recreate that special configuration of parts?
Right.
And I can't get that exact thing anymore. And oh no. And DevOps, there's a lot more of a sort of being more aware of, like, what parts you're bringing together and what sort of entropy you're introducing.
Right.
And so, maybe instead of, like, just waiting for the thing to die and replacing it, every time there's a new upgrade, maybe you automate that and you stand up the new one next to the old one, so they live for a brief moment as equals,
and
as
then you have
test
them,
the new one,
and then you have them fight to the death.
Then
Yeah.
you kill, yeah, and it is sudden death to the old one. Right?
Yeah.
So and so yeah, I do like that. That that's
So, ladies and gentlemen, apologies. It looks like there are some technical things that are happening on the other end there. Drew, just so you know, occasionally you're cutting in and out. But I'm still loving this conversation, and
okay.
It's still working. If we need to, you can text me things and stuff like that.
Okay.
But let's try and see what happens.
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine. Can you hear? I mean,
yeah. Sometimes.
Am I just coming in like garbled?
Not garbled. It's just sometimes the video and the audio are not quite mixing together the right way.
I wonder if I drop my audio, you guys would miss out on my giant SUSE.
Yeah, let's give that a shot.
I mean, if I drop my video here.
Yeah, try dropping
that.
Better. Well, I mean, I don't have the problem of having the audio and the video mix up with each other now because there's no video.
Right.
So, okay.
There's no lag between the two because there's only one.
Right, exactly. All right. Cool. So, Drew, can you helped me out a whole lot when I was first starting out. I think, to be completely fair, the fact that you mentored me, even though I went out and found you, the fact that you did that really set me off in the right direction for having a job in software. I was wondering why it is that you do that, because I know that I'm not the only person you've ever done that with. You've got a number of people who you've helped.
Well, I think that it comes down to one, I mean, there's a little bit of selfishness to be frank, right? I had the darndest time getting into the industry, right? And, you know, not only did I have the darndest time, because I worked in sales for a few years before so I graduated high school, worked in sales, and then decided to transition to tech. And, you know, my early transitions were sort of like thwarted. Everyone always wanted me to go back to sales. Like in a pinch, I was well, now at least you can be the sales guy, right?
Right.
And that was really frustrating for me in that transition. But it was also I felt like I needed more information. I felt like I needed more connections. I felt like I wasn't good enough, or, you know, whatever. And it took me networking. You know, I wanted to seek out people, and it took people. I remember I was in a Barnes & Noble. I was looking for a BSD book, and this guy in the aisle next to me, I don't know the guy's name. I don't remember his name. He's like, "Hey, what you looking for?" He's just another customer. I told him I was looking for a BSD book because I know Linux. I'm a Linux user, but I'm looking to learn some BSD just so this way I can, you know, broaden my job search. And he gave me his phone number. He said, "They don't have it here, but you know what? I'll give you my copy." And so we met up at a Starbucks like the week later, and he gave me his copy of the BSD handbook. And, you know, he answered a few questions that I was stuck on, and I started going to like LAPSA style meetings, local meetings, like meetups, right? And started connecting with people. And so these sorts of connections, one, helped me like sort of build my confidence, but you know what, they sort of gave me that step in the right direction. But at the same time, like, I wish it took me less time to have made that transition. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had better resources, and I wish that things were a little bit different. And if I can do that for someone else, if I can take my transition and turn that into half for someone else, like that makes me feel good, right? Like it's sort of this pay it forward sort of deal. And so there's definitely a selfish component to it. But I want everyone to do well. Like we all can live a good life. And frankly, it's not competition in my mind because we all learn from each other. We all have different backgrounds and different understandings of things and different experiences that we then bring to the table. And in bringing these things to the table, we get to broaden the experiences we all can pull from in building cool shit, right? Sorry
Yeah,
if I'm,
yeah, totally.
Excuse the French, right? But in building things that are interesting and solving problems in interesting ways, I think by having more people that we can learn from and have in our community is a great thing. And there's so many jobs available. And quite frankly, I think, us geeks, sometimes we have a little bit of a confidence issue. And we do exactly what I did early on in my career, which was like approach getting into things too sheepishly, right? Be a little sheepish in like jumping into it. And that means that the available jobs out on the market aren't getting filled with really quality and qualified people. They just don't know it yet because they're not ready to try. And if I can inspire one person, a handful of people, if I can do my part to inspire people to trust themselves, trust that they can learn, trust that you don't need to, I don't have a throne of knowledge and that is why I am given a job, right?
Right.
I am given a job because I can learn and I am dynamic in that learning. And this, especially in this industry, this is so important because in technology, it is always changing. You can learn a technology today, and by the next version, everything you know is not, doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah.
Incompatibilities in languages, versions of software, and whatever. So the best thing you can do is be adaptive and learn and be honest with whoever you're interviewing with and say, hey, this is where I'm at. And I'm okay with that if you are, but this is where I'm at. And if you're honest with that and you say, this is what I can do for you, this is what I'm looking for in return, that's employment, right? You're solving a problem and they're giving you money, right?
Right.
And if you negotiate that arrangement well and both sides are honest, then you approach that and you show up every day and do your best because that's exactly what any of us are doing anyhow.
Yeah.
And so this is all to say, why do I do it? Why am I doing this? Why do I do that kind of thing? It's because one, I wish I had that myself. Two, people did it for me in ways. And so I would like to amplify what they did for me and help usher people in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. I can't express the sentiment any better. I loved what you said about I don't have a throne of knowledge that I sit on.
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I know things, sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many things is prepared knowledge, and some is like very experiential, right? I've experienced these things, and so therefore that's how I know them. And some things I learned in a book, or I read in a README, or some doc somewhere, or something like that. And many times the truth is that it's a mix, but I certainly know stuff, but for everything I know, there's an infinite amount of things I don't know. So it doesn't matter how prepared I am.
Yeah.
And as I said, things shift all the time, especially in this industry. That was less the case back in the day in old industries, and computers even, but the computer age has really ushered a time where many things shift very rapidly, and especially technology shifts so rapidly. So you don't always need to be the most prepared, the most informative about this little nuanced detail. Like if you knew Linux scheduling so poorly, and then tomorrow they rewrite the scheduler in the kernel, I mean, yeah, that's cool, and now you're probably in a better place to learn that version. Sure, don't get away with not knowing, not keeping that data refreshed. You're still going to have to learn. So we all need to be adaptive. There's this ego trapping, I think, that we kind of get into, where it sort of feels good once you've learned something and then know the jargon and lingo, and we're able to sort of talk about it with that lingo, and you and I are like, oh yeah, DNS, and you're like, yeah, DNS, and we're talking, and someone's the outsider going, what's DNS? What's DNS? They're using the word packet, but that's not. I mean, I know what it like a packet, right? Like we learn this jargon, and then we use this jargon, and it like subjugates people. And there's a certain amount of necessity that comes with that. You have to have specificity of language in order for us to communicate efficiently.
Right.
However, there's a certain degree of approaching that kind of traps your ego if you let it.
Yeah.
Right? There's a necessity, and so you lean into it for necessity, but then if it feels good, you might let your ego run away with that, and you might start subjugating people when you don't mean to.
Yeah.
And so, I think that there's something there, and technical, highly technical area where a full sort of jargon develops. There is this trapping of ego thing that can happen, where if you're not careful, you're gonna make people who are good enough feel like they're not good enough because they don't know that term yet.
Yeah.
They don't know the suite of terms you're bantering about as easily as anything, and they can't keep up with the conversation, and so they might feel sheepishly, oh, maybe. And that's not the case. You just don't know that word yet, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Just ask what the word is.
That's fine. Right. Once you know, you then now know.
Yeah. And you can also Google those things.
You might forget. Right. Yeah. You might. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, there's so many things I've learned. There's so many things I've learned and go, oh wow, okay, that really changes like my perception of some of the conversations I've heard. Right. Like there's, you just sometimes like you don't have that word or suite of words, and then you look it up or whatever, and now that conversation that I heard at the conference made sense. Oh, I see what they were talking about now. Right now, you know it. So in this world where like I can Google something and it's right there, the membrane between knowing and not knowing is so thin that I feel like a lot of times people get really wrapped up in over preparing. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that happens to me too, right? I think it happens to all of us. Oh yeah, I don't really understand this. Let me dig in. And I think that there's good in doing that, in wanting to understand, but at the same time, there's understanding, there's like fully preparing, and there's experiential like learning, right? Where you're learning it and you're understanding it as you're moving through producing something and doing something.
Yeah.
And giving value to an organization. They'll pay you for that. It's called on-the-job learning, and it happens, and it's okay. And the faster and more dynamic you are at that, probably your salary is probably going to reflect that.
Yeah. Let's let's try to shall we attempt to share your screen and see if we can do
All
some
right.
PowerShell scripting? I didn't realize.
Let's do a little.
Yeah, I didn't realize that PowerShell. Do you have access to that? Let me make sure you do. Yeah, you can do it.
Here, I made a new GitHub account for this.
Great.
So can I message you? I don't know. Maybe that doesn't. We don't need to have access to that, right?
No, actually, we can just do it all from your own screen.
Okay. So let me. Okay. All right. Share my screen. Gonna go see openSUSE right here.
All right.
Okay.
There you are.
So I got my shell open, and this is actually PowerShell. And this is
Nice.
This is an oldie. I think they're at 7.03 now, but this is 7.0.0.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I thought that PowerShell was only available on Windows.
It was for a really long time, but they open sourced it, and then they made it cross-platform.
Whoa. Okay, cool. I had no idea.
You can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, we're definitely all
Okay.
seeing the screen. You might want to actually increase the size if you can. It's
Okay.
going to be a little hard to see.
Okay. PowerShell GitHub. Let's look at PowerShell GitHub. Let's just Google that.
Yeah.
DuckDuckGo it. That doesn't
Right.
roll off the tongue as well.
No, it doesn't.
But here's the okay. Here's the PowerShell repo.
That's actually the code that PowerShell is.
This is and here's the license. It is MIT license. It's a very permissive license. It's basically like, yeah, here's the code. Cool. Do things with it.
Nice.
That's to say it's not like the Linux kernel, which is copylefted.
Right.
This is a very permissive license, and so yeah, it's open source and it's developed in the open. It's not like just tossed over the fence open source.
Okay.
But develop this in the open as well. So it's kind of great. And then you'll see here's how we can install it. So how I typically do it is I go to this repo, and then I go to, there's usually a releases tab up here. You see it? Actions. They keep changing the interface.
Remember I know they do.
Remember what I was saying about interface changes?
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Yeah,
oh,
it's
here they changed it here. Here's the releases button. So we're gonna open this in a new tab.
Yeah.
And here, oh look, here's the 7.1 preview. And if we scroll down, here's the assets list. Here's all the packages. So I'm using openSUSE. Now, openSUSE is a Linux distribution that uses RPM. And so they have RPMs here. And RPM is just a package format. And so here we can I'll upgrade to the newest version because I kind of want to do that anyways.
Okay, cool.
I'm just going to grab this one. It's for CentOS, which is for Linux.
That's a different distro though, right?
Another different distro, but a lot of times if they're good about making the package, it should still work. And if I remember right, this will give me some sort of error about like libcurl or something.
Oh boy, that font, I can barely see it on my giant screen. There we go. That's a little better.
We're going to get some wrapping, but let's do some of that.
There, that's nice. Okay, cool.
And so this is doing things.
It's yeah, because the cursor on the bottom is just blinking.
Right.
So something is happening in the background. It hasn't returned to us the prompt. Yeah.
Right. And I can hear my computer chugging away.
Uh-huh.
Now this computer is a very old, like I built it out of old server parts, like really old server parts.
Old server
So like
parts.
resource wise, it's pretty cool because it's got a lot of resources.
Uh-huh.
So if I do like an HTAP, right, I've got 252 gigs of RAM and
Jeez.
24 cores.
24 cores.
Yeah, and these
Wow.
are real cores, hyper-threaded. These are real cores. It's a dual Opteron setup, and so there's a lot of resources on this system. But
You
at the same
basically
time,
you took a
it's
Mac engine
really
from a truck
this is a
and
Frankenstein system.
yeah, you took a Mac engine from a truck and then you put it
Yeah,
into like a sensible sedan.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
you
I
did.
use it as a desktop. Actually, what a lot of times what I do is I run. I'll connect to this from like my laptop
Uh-huh.
using there's a program called Vert Manager,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll connect to this computer in Vert Manager and spin up virtual machines on this computer, but I can access them and view them and manipulate them from my laptop. So I've got myself a little like mini cloud here.
Yeah.
Except for the other day while working on it, I broke libvirt on this thing, and so I gotta refit. But I didn't have I was messing with it, so I was using it to run any VM. And there's nothing ever mission critical on this machine because it's really kind of like my little home lab. I use it just to test things out. Only something's gone wonky here.
Oh man.
Sometimes uh, there is a process called package kit
There's a D in
that
there. Yeah,
gets
there
in
we
the
go.
way, and so maybe that was the problem, or maybe
Hmm.
not. I don't know what's going on here.
It could be. You think it could be Wi-Fi sort of things?
Well, I don't know. It could be just my setting.
Hmm.
So
Well, it looks like
here,
that's working.
yeah. So what I did was I'm like, well, if this is having trouble, let's just break down because this command should download this from this location, right?
Yeah.
So this should just automatically happen and then it installs it, right?
Right.
But if it's giving me trouble, what I'm doing here is going, okay, well, let me just expose that download in here. Let me just make this a little bigger. So
So
now
we're
it's
going
downloaded.
to we're going to boil that down. We're having a problem, and the way to solve the problem is to break the problem into smaller pieces and
Yes.
like, okay, is this small dumb thing working? Okay,
Right.
cool. How about this next small dumb thing? Is that working? Yeah.
What it looks like it's probably doing is, I mean, it's just it's going slow. The
Yeah.
download's going slow. What like we can try a stupid zipper command here and see if maybe just zipper. So I'm gonna clear the cache and refresh my my repo data for all my active repos on my system.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is squarely in the realm of sysadmin sort of territory, right? Like we're trying to install software and it's not behaving as expected. So here we're gonna kill the cache and refresh the cache and then we're gonna try the whole thing again.
Right.
And by that time, maybe we will have already. So now let's just do this again. Maybe that was all that needed to happen. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like little piece by little
The
piece. You
thing is,
just
it's
do.
not it. Yeah, it's not giving us any. So we're just sort of left to play our best guess. Now I'm sure there's some bandwidth limitation here. This doesn't seem like a super fast, you know, action here for a little RPM. Like this,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like
that
this
seems
should
like
happen much faster.
so just
But I don't know what our screen sharing over network, and I am definitely using Wi-Fi here, right? So
right.
there's probably some bandwidth limitations on my Wi-Fi I'm hitting. And again, this computer is like its own.
So Drew is cut out from audio for the moment. I suppose I'll hear back from him in a little while. In the meantime, just going to watch the screen and see if anything changes on it. It could be that trying to build this along with streaming is causing some trouble. So I'll try to show what's going on here and sort of boil down what Drew is talking about. So we encounter a problem, and that is the sound of the connection being lost. Hopefully I'll hear our connection coming back on anytime. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and text him now about that. But hold on a second here. Jump back in when you can. Smiley face. So, working with software is an exercise in patience. It's also an exercise in trying to get very small steps done. One little thing at a time, and that's it. So if the big thing doesn't work and you've just been given a command of like, oh yeah, just copy this and paste it into your terminal or wherever. Ah, he's back. If you're in that place and it doesn't work, hey! If it doesn't work, then what you do is you break the big problem down into smaller ones. Oftentimes, this is very frustrating because you end up just staring yourself straight in the eyes, and you don't realize you're doing it because you're looking at a computer monitor, and you're getting all of your frustrations reflected right back to you. So, taking the time to breathe and go, this is normal. Not only that, but as a software developer, it's your job. And it's part of the reason why we're paid a lot of money, because we will sit here and do this until the thing works. And once it does, it makes a lot of difference to everybody. It really does change the world. A sysadmin at Amazon, for example, is facilitating millions of people getting things that they need to have. The same thing can be said about sysadmins in any number of distribution companies. It's people like Drew, and perhaps even you yourself, listener, watcher, chat, go ahead and comment on this as well. It is, you are the one who is allowing people to live. You're the one who's like bringing that to life. You're changing the world. Everything that we do is with software now. You might think that it's not software. It's software. Everything is software. So yeah, Drew, welcome back.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I think the audience can also.
Hello, audience. I'm back. Sorry about the interruption. I will have you know that now that I'm not sharing my screen, I was able to install this thing no problem.
Ha!
Now, it could be bandwidth, or it could be the observer issue. I swear I can juggle if no one's looking. However, if I tap someone on I'm juggling. I tap someone on the shoulder and go, look, I can juggle. That is the moment I drop a ball. That is the moment I cannot juggle. That is the moment.
Yes. Yes. Preach it. This is one of the.
It could be the observer issue.
Yeah, yeah. This is also something that happens all the time when you have any kind of a show where it's live coding, right?
Yeah.
In fact, it's a joke amongst people who do demonstrations or like talks, like tech talks, like don't do live coding. They like always say that. And the show I'm putting on, Coding Koans, nothing but live coding.
Right. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Invite the chaos.
Yes. Invite it.
Invite the chaos. Look, we install the thingy. And remember I said there was going to be some sort of issue?
Yep.
With like, it wants openSSL.
Yeah.
I have it. The file is just named differently on openSUSE than it is on CentOS, but the package can still figure it out.
Okay.
So it's just that, or the software can figure it out, but the package manager couldn't.
Yeah, the package manager is still giving you a warning saying like, hey, we don't see this thing in here. Are you sure you want to do this?
But here we are. It works. And so now that I have it installed, I can create a new shell instance. And so that in the old one, let's check our PS version table.
700.
We were using 7, so now let's kill it. Let's look at our new one. Let's make this nice and big so everyone can see it. And now let's check our PS version table here. And here we are. We have a new version.
7.0.3.
Yeah, we got an upgrade. Look at that. And then I have a directory here, just live stream. There's nothing in here. Oh, I did one file in here.
Right.
And this has my secret for actually accessing the API on GitHub.
Right.
Anyways, I don't know. I'm just happy that now we are actually in PS version table, or now we were able to actually see in PS version table that we got our upgrade and it worked.
And by the way, now that it's done that, we're at that time of the show where we're going to talk about what we learned and what we accomplished today.
What we learned was that sometimes these things don't go to plan, ladies and gentlemen. Children, you know, we bang our heads against walls and tables, and we talk to giant geckos, and we comfort ourselves.
Yes, we do.
But we stay at it. We're persistent and pleasantly persistent. There you go. Is that a puppet? Oh my God, I didn't know we were doing puppets.
Yeah, we're doing puppets. Because,
I have a ventriloquist puppet. You should have told me about that.
You've got, like, a giant... that's not an iguana. What is that? It's a chameleon. Right, it's a chameleon. So, I thought it only appropriate that I went ahead and used a puppet.
We didn't get to code, though. That's sad.
No.
If you came here for PowerShell and you saw me install a package, sometimes that's life.
Yep. So,
well, hopefully you got something else out of it.
Yeah. So let's stop sharing the screen, and we'll just get a big video of the two of us that will be all choppy and weird, but, you know, hey, what can you do?
I'll tell you, my wallpaper is prettier than me, so there. It's you guys' choice here. You all chose this.
So I got two questions.
Okay.
One. What is the most important thing to remember about being a software professional?
Prepare, but don't over prepare. You know, learn to learn quickly. Right, like that. That I think is the key. And even more than learning to learn quickly, just be adaptive. you know, different patterns. You might work at one place and they use a certain pattern to do a thing. You go to the next place and perhaps you have an affinity for that old pattern, and this new place isn't using that pattern, they're using an alternative pattern. Which one is better? There's pros and cons to both. Maybe you prefer the other one better, but this one's the one that they have in place and is sort of enculturated. Maybe that one's better in this case. And so, you know, being adaptive and observing and learning and being, you know, really observing and sort of qualifying these things on their own merits, and not sort of cargo culting just because, oh, that's the thing I know, which is, there's value in that. That shouldn't be discounted.
Right.
Yes, you know that. That's one of the elements you need to consider. That is not the only element in which you consider. So
right.
yeah, all of this to say that sort of dynamic adaptability of self, the ability to sort of observe and take in and engage with what you've observed mentally, and sort of, you know, really do something with that that is mindful. I think that sort of thing is one of the most important things in software development, in technology in general, because it is an ever adapting, ever changing world. And you need it.
Yeah. Wow, that's...
You don't need to be perfect to be effective.
You just need to know how to learn and how to figure things out. And you're
Right.
just never, ever think that you're ever going to actually know. You're always just going to be figuring it out.
Right, yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like bearing your own ignorance sometime and humbling yourself and, like, you know, banging your head against that wall with frustration and doing so with a smile and just go, okay, this is what I signed up for.
That's it. That's it.
I'll figure this out. I believe in myself. That optimism bites you, but it's also the thing that gets you through it and gets you through to find the real result.
Yeah. 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 You don't stop just because you don't know.
Right.
You keep trying to figure it out.
Right.
And
right.
if you can't figure out what it is, you figure out what it's not.
Yeah. You ask, you read, you watch a YouTube video, you attend a conference, you know, whatever you got to do. You know, hire a consultant sometimes. Sometimes that's the answer. You know, you don't know, that's okay. It could take you too long to know, to figure it out. So you hire a specialist. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You don't need to know everything.
All right, you ready for the second question?
Okay.
Yeah. Second question is, if I wanted to get started as a system administrator, what's the first thing I should do?
That's a hard question. For a sysadmin.
Let's say they know nothing at all about computers.
Learn computers. I mean, you know
Right.
what? No, and I mean, like, learn what a CPU is, what memory is, what storage is. Like, understand the sort of main principles of computing.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very basic thing. You don't need an academic understanding. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't mean this to cause a whole bunch of people to go down a rabbit hole trying to grok the fullness of what computing is.
Right.
Right? I'm not trying to cause existential panic. However, learn what a computer is. You know, install an operating system. Understand what a partition is. Right? Write yourself a shell script. Install a free Linux distribution. You can download one for free at openSUSE.org. You know, get a Raspberry Pi, play with that. You know?
Oh yeah, those are great. I love Raspberry Pi.
Do some home networking, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do some of these things that just sort of expose you to the computing world. Do a little bit of, you know, you buy a Raspberry Pi, you connect it up to your home computer, you connect it to your laptop, you SSH to it from your laptop, you know, you give it a static IP address on your network, you know, these sorts of things, have fun with it and learn along the way. Like, explore, experiment, and learn. Be curious. If you're curious, you'll figure it out and you'll be adaptive. And whether you want to be a sysadmin, or maybe you'll learn that, hey, I really like networking, or hey, that script I wrote was really cool, I want to be more of a developer. All of these things are fine, and frequently all of these skill sets are converging anyways.
Right.
So understanding a bit of all of it, and sysadmins, we're great at being generalists, right? And so if you like that broad strokes general computing space, I love, if I go too long without building a Docker image, or installing an OS, or I go crazy. I gotta have that stuff. So explore these things, explore yourself exploring these things, right? And observe what you enjoy. And then once you have some of the basics and the understanding, and then, if you like it and want to do it for a profession, get your resume out there.
Yeah. I remember the first time I actually just SSH'd into a Raspberry Pi from my laptop. And I was like, I am a magician. No one else understands that. Like, it seems so simple. And like, I'm sure a portion of our audience doesn't know what an SSH even is. And that's okay. But the point is that there will come a time when you start playing with these stuff where you SSH into something and they're like, I just SSH'd into my Raspberry Pi. And all of your friends are going to be like, what did you just say? I don't understand you.
Right.
But you'll understand once you get your hands dirty. And that seems to be what I'm hearing you say. Just get your hands dirty.
Yeah. I mean, learn it. For me, it was, I took an A+ certification course in high school. A+ is a CompTIA certification. Now, it was years after high school that I ended up actually getting A+ certified. But, that thing, it teaches you hardware. It teaches you some operating system stuff. And it's like your basic, like, computer repair guy, like working at a computer repair shop sort of certification. Mm-hmm. And I am not a big advocate for certificates, but, these materials for certificates exist out there. You can pick up an A+ certification book and read through some of that and get an idea of some of the underpinnings of computing, what partitions are, install Linux distro, install yourself some Windows, start playing around with technology, but do so in a curious way. I liked picking it apart. I remember when I was a kid, I had a Windows 95 machine and I had a Windows 98 machine, and it blew my mind that I could take the calculator program, the exe, from my Windows 98 machine, and then I put it on my Windows 95 machine, and I had the 98 calculator running on my Windows 95 computer. And then when I found that out, I started copying all sorts of exes from my Windows 98 computer to my Windows 95 computer until I totally broke it.
Yes. Yeah. Don't be afraid to break things, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, don't be afraid to break things. Explore it and get curious and figure it out and see what you like and you don't like. And then don't be afraid to take that into the job market and confidently offer yourself as help to a company who desperately needs it.
Yes. And I think with that, we'll roll our credits. I need to thank a few people. First, I need to thank Aaron Harvey, who created the graphics for our show. He also has a show on Outpost 13 called Infinite Trek, where he talks about Star Trek. Maddie Goff, I frequently do live editing for her show, The Maddie Goff Show. That's tomorrow night at 8:30, I think, is when it is. Basically, it's two improvisers going back and forth. Arlo and Alex are up next. They do a show called Made Up Music. And what they do is they will make up a new song in the 3 hours that they have, based off of the suggestions that the audience gives them. And by the way, listening to made-up music while you code is amazing. So if you're out there and you're working on your own coding projects, having someone working along with something that's different but the same kind of energy to it can really help you. So I recommend that. If you want to see older episodes of Coding Koans, go to FTL Talks. Just Google FTL Foxtrot Tango Lima Talks. And that is going to be a YouTube channel that has all of my stuff on it. Also, if you want to see VODs from Twitch, subscribe to Outpost 13. It's $5 a month, and it's great. I love it. Also, my production liaison is Matt Pittner. Botmaster is Cody Bushy. Thank you guys, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Drew, for sharing your mentorship and your wisdom in numerous ways.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. So for that, I think we'll just roll our transition stuff, and we'll see you next week when I have a new person coming on. I'll see you then.
See you.
All right, I'm seriously going to transition now. Here we go. Here it comes. All right. No, like now. No? Okay, how about now?
Just a man. When you start saying a mountain is a mountain, a river is a river. But learning Zen, a mountain is not a mountain, a river is not a river. After learning Zen, a mountain is a mountain,